She came back like she'd just run to the store, dropped her duffel by the door, tossed her keys in the bowl, and said, "Hey babe, we need more oat milk." Oat milk. That was it. Her first words after 4 days in Arizona, with Brandon. The same Brandon she insisted was just a friend. The same Brandon who, she once joked, would date Harry Styles before ever looking at me. I stood frozen in the kitchen, spatula clenched in my hand like a weapon I didn't know how to use. I hadn't eaten. Couldn't. My stomach had been in knots since she left. Something in me already knew. This trip, this so-called getaway, it wasn't about nature or finding peace on some red rock. It was about slipping away from me. She didn't kiss me, didn't even glance up from her phone as she walked past, fingers moving fast, like they were chasing someone else. I said her name. Once. Twice. The third time she sighed. What? Flat. Distant. I asked how the trip was. Amazing, she said. So grounding. We did this sunrise meditation on Bell Rock, and I had, like, a breakthrough. I wanted to ask, was that before or after Brandon touched you? But I kept it in. Not yet. She went upstairs to shower, her phone left face down on the counter. No passcode. Just open. Waiting. I stood there, water running above me, time slowing down around that single thought. This is it. The moment everything breaks. I never wanted to be that guy. The one who checks, who reads, who digs for the truth like it's buried under their own skin. But she made it easy. Or maybe she wanted me to see. The first message was from him. Brandon. Still can't stop thinking about last night. You're dangerous, Kay. I'm addicted. Dangerous. Addicted. I kept scrolling. Photos. Jokes. Pet names. My wild little secret, he called her. And her? She said she wished she didn't have to come back. That home didn't feel like home anymore. That one hit different. That one broke something. You don't forget the moment you realize the person you built your life around already left. You're just the ghost they haven't stopped haunting yet. She came back downstairs, towel wrapped around her, hair dripping, skin glowing with satisfaction she didn't try to hide. She saw the phone in my hand. Our eyes met. No flinch. No guilt. Just, seriously? You went through my phone. Cold. Distant. Like I was the one who crossed a line. I said, you told me he was gay. She rolled her eyes. Rolled them. Yeah, well, people change. And something in me, quietly, cleanly, snapped. Not loud. Not messy. Just a clean fracture between who I thought I was and who she really turned out to be. I asked her how long it had been going on. She shrugged. Few months. Maybe more. What do you want me to say? I wanted her to say it meant nothing. That she was sorry. That she'd fight for me. For us. But she didn't. She just walked past, scooped up her phone, and said, Look, Jake, if you're gonna make this a whole thing, maybe you need to figure some stuff out on your own. Then she disappeared into the bedroom and gently closed the door. No slam. No lock. Just a soft, deliberate click. And that's when I knew. Kayla didn't come back from Sedona. Not really. What came home was a stranger with her face. The door stayed shut for 2 hours. I didn't move. Didn't breathe. Just sat on the kitchen stool, staring at the dent her suitcase left in the carpet. That's the thing about shock. It doesn't scream. It seeps in. Like water in wood. Warping everything, slow and silent. Around hour 3, she came out. Clean clothes. Hair done. Lip gloss perfect. No trace of regret. I said, so that's it? That's all you've got? She leaned on the doorframe, arms folded. I don't know what you want from me, Jake. You've already made me the villain. What am I supposed to do, beg? I laughed. A hollow sound, echoing in an empty room. Ugly. That was the only word in my head. My wife was sleeping with another man, and she was mad at me for uncovering it? She scoffed, all indignant and sharp. I'm mad you're acting like this is some big surprise. There it was. The shift. The flip. Suddenly, I was the problem. You've been distant for months, she said. You stopped paying attention. You stopped trying. Classic. She couldn't just admit it. No, she had to twist it until I was the one to blame. But I remembered who planned the weekends. Who cooked. Who begged her to talk while she stared through her screen like I wasn't even there. I remembered staying, while she started dressing up just to go for a walk. When her laughter belonged to her phone and never to me. When she showered before the gym like she had something to wash away. How long, Kayla? I asked. She didn't blink. Didn't falter. 7 months. Maybe 8. Who cares? I wasn't ready for the honesty or the venom in it. She wanted it to hurt. Wanted me to bleed from it. Then came the dagger. You think I planned this? It just happened. Brandon saw me. You stopped. I stood up, hands shaking. You lied. Every single day. You came home and kissed me with his spit still on your mouth. You told me he was gay. She smirked, and said, honestly, you believe that way too easily. I thought you'd at least push back. You didn't even ask, she went on, voice dripping with contempt. That's how bored you were with me, Jake. You didn't want to know. And as much as I wanted to scream, to call her a liar, she wasn't wrong. I had ignored the signs. I told myself she was just off, that we'd bounce back. That love was a cycle, not a cliff. I was wrong. So I asked the one thing I hadn't dared yet. Do you love him? She looked away. Not down. Just away. And said nothing. That silence broke me more than any answer could. Pack, I told her. She didn't argue. Didn't cry. She just went upstairs, grabbed her things, and walked to the door like she was clocking out of a job she no longer wanted. Before leaving, she glanced back, cold, distant, like I was an old co-worker she barely remembered. I'll text you about the mail. And then she was gone. No slammed door. No apology. Just her footsteps fading and that haunting emptiness where her keys used to hang. I stood in the hallway, staring at nothing, trying to remember what it used to feel like, trusting her, loving her, believing her. And just like that, all that remained was silence. That night stretched forever. The house didn't feel like home. It felt like a museum filled with echoes, her toothbrush still in the holder, her slippers by the couch, that damn cinnamon eucalyptus candle she only lit during storms still flickering like it didn't know the storm had already passed through. I sat on the edge of our bed, numb. Not because I missed her. No, because even in betrayal, her absence rang louder than her presence ever did. I didn't cry, at first. The tears came later, violent and sudden, when I opened our photo folder. There she was, laughing in Costa Rica, fake screaming on that roller coaster, hugging me like I was her whole world. I stared, desperate for signs. Had it already started? Had she already let go while I was still holding on? Around 2 a.m., my phone buzzed. Unknown number. Hey, I didn't expect her to actually leave tonight. I'm sorry you had to find out like that. Brandon. He had the audacity, the gall to reach out. I didn't respond. Didn't block him either. Just let the message sit there, screen glowing with betrayal. My hands were trembling, but I wasn't shocked. He probably sent it while sitting beside her, playing the nice guy, thinking I'd be grateful for his honesty. Then, 10 minutes later, another message. Kayla, don't be dramatic. We'll figure it out. You just need time. Don't do anything rash, okay? Dramatic. That's what she called it. Nearly a year of lies, of coming home with someone else's hands still on her. And now I was the dramatic one? I wanted to throw the phone, but I didn't. I needed it. I needed the proof. The history. I scrolled back, through old texts. Her I love yous. Her selfies. The night she said, I feel like we're finally in sync again. It made me sick. Around sunrise, I started packing her things. Not out of rage. Not to punish. Just to take back my space. My air. My life. Every drawer. Every shelf. I packed her things with the kind of care that felt cruel, folding her clothes just the way she liked. Crisp corners, neat stacks arranged by type. Her books. Her yoga blocks. The incense she only lit when she wanted the house to feel like someone else's. I even took down the paintings she'd found in Oregon, leaned them against the front door like forgotten luggage. One by one, her presence vanished from the bedroom, the kitchen, the bathroom, everywhere she'd ever left a mark. I boxed up her mugs, even that chipped one she claimed had character. By 8 a.m., the house had been hollowed out. At 9, she texted, Kayla, I can come get my stuff tonight or tomorrow. Whatever works. I answered once. Your things are on the porch. Don't knock. She didn't reply, but I watched from the window as she pulled up in Brandon's silver SUV. No hesitation. No glance at the house. Just grabbed each box while he leaned against the car door, sunglasses on, smirking like the two of them had pulled off some perfect little heist. They drove off, and for the first time in weeks, the air inside went still. Not better, but still. I didn't sleep that night either. But I didn't cry. I just sat in the quiet dark, teaching myself how to breathe without her in the room. The grief didn't hit in some grand, sweeping moment. It hit in aisle 5, staring at shelves of almond milk, trying to remember if she used to buy unsweetened vanilla or original. And then it hit harder, realizing it didn't matter anymore. There was no more her list. No more babe, can you grab oat milk? No more half smiles when I brought home the wrong kind. She wasn't coming back. Not for oat milk, not for anything. Grief shows up in the mundane. Not at the goodbye. Not even at the betrayal. It ambushes you between dairy alternatives and organic granola. I left the cart and walked out. The days blurred, wet cement. I went to work. I answered emails. Replied to a few friends who'd heard and asked if I was okay. I told them I was fine, because how do you explain it? That your wife left you for a guy she met at a hiking group. Lied for nearly a year. Left in a Subaru with a man who says you're dangerous and probably refers to his dog as his fur baby. Yeah, I'm fine. 3 days later, her sister called. Lena. She hadn't heard a word. Kayla's not answering my texts, she said. Everything okay over there? I told her the truth. Not the whole, jagged mess. Just that Kayla had been unfaithful and it was over. There was a long silence. Then quietly, I knew something was off. She changed. I thought she was just evolving. Evolving. That's one word for it. That same day, I got a Venmo notification. Kayla paid you $85. Groceries plus the candle I liked. I stared at the note, blinking. Of course, she had to add something petty. Like we were splitting the check at a bar, not ending a marriage. That night, I did something I swore I wouldn't. I messaged Brandon. You can have her. All yours now. Don't ever contact me again. He left me on read. Of course he did. He thinks he won. But the more I sit with it, the more I realize he didn't. Kayla isn't a prize. Not anymore. She's not the girl I met in college. The one with wildfire in her laugh and eyes that made the world tilt. That girl faded. Slowly. Replaced by someone who wore affection like a coat she shrugged off when it got uncomfortable. Brandon didn't steal my wife. He inherited what was left of her. And I think he'll regret that. 2 nights ago, she texted again. No greeting. No name. Do you think we'll ever talk again? Just as people, I mean. I didn't answer. I won't. You don't burn down a house and then ask to come sit by the fire. You lose that right. What got me wasn't the texts. It was the smell. I was doing laundry, sheets, pillowcases, anything she'd touched. I just wanted the scent of her gone. But when I pulled the sheets from the dryer, it was still there. That soft, warm vanilla perfume she used to wear. Clinging. And that's when I broke. Quietly. No wails. No drama. Just a slow collapse onto the floor, fists tangled in cotton, the kind of crying that doesn't make a sound. The kind that hollows you from the inside out. It wasn't just grief. It was shame. Confusion. This dull, gnawing ache in my chest, whispering that none of it had ever been real. That she had already left long before her body followed. And I, stupid, blind, still loving, was the last to know. The way she laughed when I asked if something was wrong. Light, dismissive, like I was the punchline to a joke I didn't know I was part of. She once told me she loved how safe I made her feel. Turns out, she only wanted safety as a soft backdrop, while she went chasing chaos somewhere else. Brandon was chaos. The kind that comes wrapped in adrenaline and half-truths. Kayla always had a weakness for that. For danger that smiled. For distractions that sparkled. I was the fallback. The life insurance policy. The husband she could count on, until she didn't need to anymore. You don't realize how deep a lie runs until you start tracing it backwards. Like that weekend 8 months ago, she came back from a retreat and bolted straight for the shower, coat still on, shoes still wet. I asked why the rush. She said she was gross from hiking. Now I know, it wasn't a waterfall. And it wasn't sweat. Then there was the Apple Watch. Left charging on the kitchen counter, notifications buzzing. A calendar entry, Sunset Drive, 6 p.m. She said it was for a solo reflection night. Said the emojis were just her being cute with herself. Cute. She was cute with him. Realizing your marriage was one long improv scene, an act tailored just for you, doesn't make you stronger. Not at first. It makes you smaller. It turns you inside out. You start questioning everything. Every kind word. Every kiss. Every laugh. Even the good memories start to rot under the weight of truth. I called Josh that night, my best friend since high school. He's known Kayla almost as long as I have. I hadn't told him yet. Just said, she's gone. Left me for someone else. He went quiet, then said, you serious? I told him everything. How long it went on. How I found out. How she didn't cry. Didn't beg. Didn't even flinch. He didn't say, you'll be okay. He said, I never liked her, man. Then added, I didn't want to say it, but I always felt like you loved her more than she ever loved you. That one hit. Not because it was harsh, because it was true. And I think I always knew it. I just didn't want to see it. A week after she left, the dreams started. Not nightmares. Worse. Dreams where she was still mine. Where we were on the couch eating takeout, her legs draped across mine, some trash TV humming in the background. I'd wake up and reach across the bed, half asleep, only to touch cold sheets. That kind of grief, when your own brain betrays you, that's its own brand of cruelty. Reality always returned. And reality had teeth. That weekend, Lena, her sister, stopped by to drop off some mail Kayla hadn't forwarded. She lingered. "You okay?" she asked. I nodded, but I must have looked like hell. I hadn't eaten right. My voice cracked when I said, "She lied to everyone, didn't she?" Lena hesitated. Then, I think, she started lying to herself first. After that, it got easier. She didn't stay long. But before she left, she looked at me and said, "I'm sorry. You didn't deserve this." She was right. I didn't. But here I was. The real spiral hit that Tuesday. That's when someone sent me a screenshot. Brandon had posted a photo. Said it was an accident. One of those mutual friends, caught between both sides. It was Kayla, in Sedona, reclining on sun-warmed red rock, laughing like she was 17 again, wearing my hoodie, the same one she used to steal when she missed me. Now she wore it with him. The caption? "Grateful for people who bring peace to your soul." Peace. That was the moment something in me finally shifted. The pain was still there, still sharp. But it wasn't personal anymore. Because I realized it never really was. She wasn't chasing love. She was running from boredom. From herself. I could have been anyone. The guy who made her feel safe, who stocked the fridge, folded the laundry, asked about her day. But she wanted the rush. The instability. The high of being seen by someone who didn't know the truth yet. Brandon wasn't the prize. He was just the next distraction. That day, I opened a new bank account. Took my name off the joint one. Started cutting the wires that still tied us together. I didn't want to know what she was buying. I didn't want to see her name pop up at boutique candle shops or craft breweries with him. I just wanted distance. And silence. I cleared out the closet, too. Everything except the hoodie. The same one she wore in Sedona. I left it hanging there like a grave marker. If she wanted it, she could come get it. But I hoped she wouldn't. Some things deserve to rot exactly where they died. The silence that followed didn't feel peaceful. Not yet. It just felt permanent, like it had moved in, unpacked its boxes, and made itself at home. No more footsteps down the hall. No more humming behind the bathroom door. No more dumb little spats about the thermostat or the trail of mugs she left around the house like clues to a game I didn't know I was playing. The house didn't echo, but I did. Every sound I made felt too loud. Even the soft clink of my spoon in the morning felt like a shout. Then came the email. Not a text. Not a call. An email. Subject line, closure. From Kayla R. 5 lines. No greeting. I didn't mean for it to end this way. I never set out to hurt you. I know you probably hate me. I hope one day you'll understand I was drowning. And Brandon threw me a rope. A rope. That's what she called it. Funny. All I saw was her climbing over me to grab his hand. I didn't reply. What would I even say? That she didn't just break a vow. She detonated it. Then watched from a distance while I sorted through the wreckage? That she turned my trust into a weapon? That every dinner, every shared bed, every "I love you" was laced with rot? She didn't want closure. She wanted absolution. That weekend, I boxed up what was left. Her old planner. The anniversary painting from Seattle. A dusty Polaroid camera she swore she'd use more. Even the ring box, still hidden in the back of her drawer, like a forgotten promise. I put it all in the attic. Not to keep. Just because I couldn't throw it out. Not yet. Josh came over that night. Brought beer and garbage takeout. We sat in front of the TV, watching some awful sci-fi movie we loved in college. Halfway through, he said, "You didn't lose anything." She did. I wanted to believe him. I wasn't there yet. Because even with all the bitterness, I still missed her laugh. The real one. The one that crinkled her nose and shook her shoulders. But I also remembered that same laugh. Cruel, clipped, when she brushed off my instincts, called me paranoid, lied straight to my face. There were 2 Ks. One I married, and one I never really knew. That night, I stood outside for a long time, just watching the stars. Remembering the nights we used to do that together, her head on my shoulder, my hand in her hair. She used to whisper, "If we die at the same time, do we haunt the same house?" Turns out, I'd been haunting it alone for a long time. 3 weeks after she left, she showed up. No warning. No message. Just standing on my porch like this was still her story to walk into. Like I hadn't spent 21 days scraping her out of every corner of this place. She knocked twice. I didn't answer right away. Just watched her through the peephole. Same jacket. Same tilt of the head. Like she was about to charm her way out of a parking ticket. Eventually, I opened the door. Just a crack. She looked me up and down. "You look tired," she said. I didn't answer. She crossed her arms, gave me that softened look she used to save for when she wanted something. "Can we talk?" "About what?" I asked. She sighed. "Don't be like this, Jake. I'm just trying to be real." That was the moment. Be real. As if months of lies and manipulation had just been warm-ups. Now she was finally ready to be honest. Like I was supposed to be grateful. I stepped outside and closed the door behind me. We stood in silence before she tried again. "Brandon and I, we're not what you think." I gave her a look that said, "Try again." She rolled her eyes. "It's not serious. It never was. I just needed space. Something different." I didn't know how to ask for that without blowing everything up. So instead, "You lit a match and walked away smiling?" I said. She winced, then covered it with a sigh. "I made mistakes. But you made it easy to drift. You stopped being fun, Jake. Everything became a routine. You never surprised me anymore." I laughed. "Couldn't help it. So you torched our life because I didn't plan more picnics?" "Don't mock me," she snapped. And there it was. That fire again. Not warmth, not passion. Just that sharp, defensive spark she lit every time the truth got too close. She looked down at her shoes. For a second, I thought maybe we could find some kind of middle ground. Not reconciliation, not forgiveness. Just space. Space without turning into enemies. I stared at her. Then I asked the question that had been waiting in the silence since the moment she knocked. "Are you here because you miss me? Or because he's already bored with you?" She blinked. Hard. No answer. That was all I needed. I nodded toward the driveway. "You should go." She hesitated. Words gathered behind her lips. Useless words. The kind meant to stall, to delay the fall, not stop it. I said it again, firmer this time. "You should go." And she did. No protest. No parting hug. No dramatic glance over her shoulder. Just walked away. I stood there long after her car disappeared down the street. And for the first time since all this began, I didn't feel hollow. I felt clean. The next morning, I woke up before the sun. No alarm. No reason. Just awake. For weeks I'd been crawling through my own life. Starving, sleepless, stuck in a loop of what-ifs and why-nots. But that morning, something had shifted. It wasn't joy. Not yet. But it was light. I brewed coffee. Didn't check my phone. Just stood there barefoot in the kitchen, watching soft light sneak through the blinds, and realized there was no knot in my chest. No ache. No waiting. She wasn't coming back. And I didn't want her to. There was no cinematic epiphany. No moment of sweeping clarity. Just a stillness that finally belonged to me. Quiet and mine. Later that day, I cleared out the hall closet. Years of junk. The "we might need this someday" pile. Half-melted candles. Dead chargers. Her old journal, leather-bound with a wraparound cord. I almost threw it out without looking. Almost. But I opened it. Inside, half-finished thoughts, grocery lists, scattered quotes lifted from social media. Then, on the last page, one line. "I want to be loved without being known." That hit different. Not like a punch. Like a mirror. She didn't want intimacy. She wanted fantasy. Devotion without depth. Adoration without vulnerability. She didn't want to be seen, only reflected. And I had spent years building my life around that illusion. Loving a myth. Protecting it. The moment I asked for something real, something true, she vanished. That night, Josh invited me out. Drinks with some of our old crew. Normally I'd have passed. Made an excuse. But this time I said yes. It felt strange being out, not because I was sad, but because I wasn't pretending anymore. I wasn't putting on a brave face or clinging to a broken identity. I was just there. Me. Matt brought his girlfriend. She had a friend, Sarah. We talked. Nothing flirty. Nothing heavy. Just easy. When I got home, I didn't check for messages. Didn't wonder what Kayla was doing. For the first time in a long time, my thoughts stayed with me. There was one last thing I did before bed. I went into the bedroom, my bedroom now, and took down the framed photo above the dresser. Us in Big Sur, bundled in one ridiculous scarf, laughing through the cold. I held it for a long time. Then I boxed it up and put it in the garage. Not out of anger, not out of spite, but because it didn't belong on the wall anymore. It's been 2 months. 64 days since she walked out with her suitcase and her carefully constructed lies, leaving me behind in the ashes of what we built. I thought that day would be the beginning of a slow descent into heartbreak. But now I think it was the day I got my life back. I still have moments. Little stings. A song on the radio. A couple holding hands. A chipped mug that somehow made it through the purge. But those moments pass. And when they pass, they don't cut, they echo. Memories, not wounds. Brandon's still around, I think. Lena mentioned Kayla's living in a sublet across town. Said, she seems different. Like she got what she wanted and doesn't know what to do with it. Yeah, that sounds about right. Because when someone trades loyalty for lust, reality always catches up. The thrill dims. The damage doesn't. And people like her? They don't sit in the wreckage. They run. To the next clean slate. The next fresh pair of eyes that haven't yet seen the cracks. Me? I stayed. I sat in the mess. Sifted through it. Slowly. Painfully. I faced every shard. Felt every sting. Took ownership of the whole ruined thing. That's the difference. I learned a lot. I learned that love isn't blind loyalty. That trust doesn't mean silencing your gut. That sometimes it's the silence, the aching, hollow kind, that finally lets you hear your own voice again. I learned that being wrecked by someone doesn't make you weak. It makes you human. And betrayal? It doesn't always scream. Sometimes it kisses you goodbye, tells you to calm down, looks you in the eye with a lie. Sometimes it's quiet enough to echo for years. But closure, that's not something they hand you. It's something you claim. Last weekend, I took a road trip. Just me, a stack of old playlists, and a notebook I hadn't touched in years. I drove the same winding route Kayla and I once took to the coast. Only this time, it didn't haunt me. I stopped at the little diner we used to love. Got a booth by the window. Ordered pancakes and black coffee. Watched the ocean curl against the shore. Then I opened that notebook and wrote 2 simple words. Still here. Not broken. Not bitter. Just here. Living. So if you're reading this, and you're in the thick of it, if you just found the messages, if they walked out and didn't look back, listen to me. You are not crazy. You are not weak. You are not unlovable. You were loyal in a world that no longer treasures loyalty. That alone makes you rare. And if they couldn't see your worth, that's not your failure. It's their blindness. Let them go. Clean the house. Burn the candles. Delete the damn photos. Reclaim your mornings. Reclaim your breath. Reclaim you. Because sometimes, the worst day of your life is the one that quietly sets you free. Thanks for reading. Jake, 35. Still healing. Still learning. Still standing.